Minister, I want to raise again with you the issue of access to primary school places in Rathcoole, County Dublin. This is an issue which we raised in this House, myself and my colleague Deputy Owen O'Brien, before the summer. And unfortunately, our concerns have come to pass in that children in Rathcoole have been unable to secure primary school places in Rathcoole. And to put things into context, in February of last year, the principal of one of the local primary schools wrote to your department, and I want to be specific so as not to misquote him. He goes on to say, "Our school is the only English medium school in the village. There's also Gael schools situated here. The Department of Education has signalled that there will be a school open in the Rathcoole-Newcastle Saggart area in 2020. However, this seems unlikely to occur in such a short time. Most of our classes are full at 31 pupils per class. We have late waiting lists for most streams. There is an increasing number of housing developments under construction and planned for construction. This will bring increased demand for places. Families have moved into houses in our village only to discover that our school cannot accommodate them. Some families are travelling significant distances to other schools as a result. We also have a situation where some families have one or more child enrolled with us and another child enrolled elsewhere, as there is no space available for the other child. Our Board of Management has had to engage with the Section 29 process of the Education Act on many occasions, whereby an appeal was taken by families as a result of our refusal to enrol. At a recent Section 29 hearing in the Department of Education, Marlborough Street, the chairperson of the Section 29 Hearing Committee requested that we inform you of the existing pressure and further expected pressure for school places in Rathcoole. We're currently processing next year's junior infants classes. That's for September of this year. There have been 117 applications from the local community alone this year. 93 places will be offered. Minister, we highlighted all of this earlier in the year, and we obviously, when the parents were offered places, a number of parents were on a waiting list and came to us. We brought it to the floor of the Dáil, we debated it. The summer has come and gone. Children have gone back to school, and a significant number of children have been unable to gain access to one of the two local schools, the Gael School or the National School in Rathcoole. And some of those children have gone elsewhere, but some of them have gone back to preschool. And it's not, in my view, in their best interest from a developmental point of view, that if they're of an appropriate age where they're friends and they're of an appropriate age to go to primary school, that they're not going to primary school, and it's not happening. Minister, you've issued the reply before where you said that the 2020 there would be a new school. The new school, and I said it before and I want to emphasise this, the new school that's being proposed is not in Rathcoole, it's in Fortunestown. You've identified it in a previous reply. It will not address the need that exists today. And what I'm saying to you, Minister, is little has happened from the Department's point of view to reassess the demand for primary school places in Rathcoole, where there are new houses being built, where there are new houses being planned, and where there is a shortage of places today, that children of today, not the future, children of today have failed to access one of their own local primary schools. So I'm appealing to you, Minister, to reassess the school capacity issue in the Rathcoole area for this year and next year, and then the longer term as the housing development continues.
To thank the Deputy for putting down the question. I wish to thank you for raising this matter, as it provides me with an opportunity to outline my Department's position in relation to primary school places in the Rathcoole area. In order to plan for school provision and analyse the relevant demographic data, my Department divides the country into 314 school planning areas and uses a geographical information system using data from a range of sources to identify where the pressure for school places across the country will arise. With this information, my Department carries out nationwide demographic exercises to determine where additional school accommodation is needed at primary and post-primary level. Where data indicates that additional provision is required, the delivery of such additional provision is dependent on the particular circumstances of each case and may, depending on the circumstances, be provided through either one or a combination of the following: utilising existing unused capacity within a school or schools, extending the capacity of a school or schools, provision of a new school or schools. The question of enrolment in individual schools is the responsibility of the managerial authority of those schools. It is the responsibility of the managerial authorities of schools to implement an enrolment policy in accordance with the Education Act 1998 and the Education Admissions to Schools Act 2018. My department's main responsibility is to ensure that schools in an area can, between them, cater for all pupils seeking places. Parents have the right to choose which school to apply to, and where the school has places available, the pupil should be admitted. However, in schools where there are more applicants than places available, a selection process may be necessary. This selection process and the enrolment policy on which it is based must be non-discriminatory and must be fairly applied in respect of all applicants. As the Deputy is aware, the Education Admissions to School Act 2018, which was signed into law by the President on the 18th of July 2018, is an important piece of legislation which will introduce a more parent-friendly, equitable and consistent approach to how school admissions policy operates for the almost 4,000 primary and post-primary schools in this country, and a fair and balanced school admission process for all pupils. As the Deputy will be aware, in April 2018 the Government announced plans for the establishment of 42 new schools over the next 4 years, including a new 8-classroom primary school to be established in September 2020 to serve the Newcastle Rathcoole Sagard school planning area. This announcement follows nationwide demographic exercises carried out by my department into the future need for primary and post-primary schools across the country. I recently announced that 5 of the new primary schools being established from 2020 to 2022 are being designated for Irish medium education, including the new 8-classroom primary school to serve the Newcastle Rathcoole Sagard school planning area. The new school will be located in the Sagard City West area. It is adjacent to Tala school planning area, in which there is no Gael school. My department is conscious that Rathcoole is an area of growing demographic demand and additional residential development, and my department is actively reviewing the potential need to establish a new primary school in Rathcoole. In respect of meeting current demand for primary school places, my department approved additional temporary accommodation for Scoil Cronin Primary School I Gabhfuil is a hochjig agus Gabhfuil is a níjig.
Minister, I'd like to thank you for the reply, and to be fair, and this isn't sarcastic, most of the reply I had received before and I was aware of it. If you take the last paragraph first, where you say, in respect of meeting current demand for primary school places, my department approved additional temporary accommodation. I acknowledge that. I'm saying despite that, we still have a significant number of people who are failing to get a school place in Rathcoole. So, I acknowledge the steps you've taken, but having taken those steps, children in Rathcoole are failing to get a school place. You've then gone on to say, which you said before, that there would be a new school in the Sagard City West area. It's Fortunestown. I acknowledge that. It is of little benefit to people who are living in Rathcoole. And I actually think by the time it's built, the housing developments in the City West area will by and large fill it. So those are not solutions to a problem, not of the future, a problem of today, that children and parents in Rathcoole are not accessing them. And I personally believe that if families who live in Rathcoole want to have their children educated in Rathcoole, they shouldn't have to bring them to other towns or villages in an adjacent area. There should be a place for them. And I think it's not just from the family's point of view, but the friends that those children will make and go through life, and the various sporting bodies they'll join. It's part of their community. You should be able to access a place in your own community. You do, however, say, and give a little bit of hope, and I hope you act on this, Minister, and I really do, where you say, my department is conscious that Rathcoole is an area of growing demographic demand and additional residential development, and my department is actively reviewing the potential need to establish a new primary school in Rathcoole. You've missed the boat. It's already needed. It's not for the future that it will be needed. If you listened to the letter that the principal that I read into the record, when families move into the Rathcoole area, they're not just trying to access primary, the junior infants. They're coming with children of different ages. It's virtually impossible to get a child of any age into the school. So I'm urging you, Minister, with your officials, to review the situation in terms of capacity in Rathcoole, not to come back and say the Fortunestown one in Sagard City West is the solution. It is not the solution. There's a deficit today, and your plan for the future will also is not addressing the deficit that needs to.
I appreciate, Deputy, the sense of urgency here, and appreciate the intensity of development and different parts of the country, and obviously in the Newcastle, Rathcoole, Sagard area. That's the school planning area. I've deliberately separated out Rathcoole in my second last paragraph. And you know, and in fairness to Francis Fitzgerald and yourself, you outlined very, very clearly that there's a distinct and specific need in that particular area. And we are reviewing the potential, Deputy. We are reviewing the potential to establish a new primary school in Rathcoole. And that means collecting as much data as possible from future planning permissions to existing planning permissions. I know you're not talking the future, talking here and now, and you're saying that there's a need today. They're travelling to other places. So I think that data from the principals in the two existing schools would be really, really helpful in terms of even, you know, parents who tried to get their students in September and that didn't happen. So that data will be collated. We'll be looking at planning permissions. We'll be looking at existing demographics as well. It's a very young population, as you've outlined before. And when I say we're reviewing it, I don't mean we're just looking at it for a way of letting you know that things will be grand and we'll get on with what's existing. We're serious about this. We're serious about areas that have, like, it's as simple as this. If there's a demand there in a particular area, we'll give it serious consideration. It's the second time I've come in here, I think, on this issue, and I know I've put into the record again probably stuff I've put in before, but I think it's important from an information point of view, from a public dissemination point of view, to do that. But just to say to you again, we have a very proactive unit in the department that looks at future population projection, and we're giving it serious consideration.